I always say you have to build your house out of brick and not straw. And that during the COVID pandemic, we saw that, more than ever to be vital.
Welcome to the American Med Spa Association podcast, Medical Spa Insider. This week, AmSpa President and COO Cathy Christensen is speaking with Shawna Chrisman, NP, CEO and founder of Destination Aesthetics, and Maegen Kennedy, PAC, co-founder and clinical director of Windermere Medical Spa and Laser Institute.
Hello and welcome to Medical Spa Insider. My name is Cathy Christensen. I am the president and the chief operating officer for AmSpa. And I'm so excited today to be joined by two longtime OG friends of AmSpa on different coasts. We have Shawna Chrisman from our West Coast contingent, and then we have Maegen Kennedy from our East Coast contingent. If you're in the industry at all, or even just checking out social media, it is difficult to miss these two ladies. They are extremely intelligent. They are very active in the industry, and it is my pleasure to chat with them. So please welcome Maegen and Shawna.
Hi.
Thank you, Cathy. Hi, Maegen.
Oh, hi, Shawna.
So Maegen Kennedy has been now your location has gone through several kind of name iterations, but you're at Windermere Medical Spa and Laser Institute. Is that correct,
Yes.
Maegen?
Yes.
And you're a PA. You're known as the Princess Injector,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I love will you share the reason for that? Because I don't know. I love this.
Our office actually sits really close to Disney. And so we were seeing a lot of princesses, and, it just kind of dawned on me. I'm like, I guess I'm just the princess injector.
Didn't you say one time that one of your daughters was like, why does Cinderella know you?
So we would go to the parks, and we would go up to Cinderella, and Cinderella would break character, and she would say, "Oh, hey, Maegen." And my daughter at the time was probably like 6 or 7. And she would look at me like, "How do you know Cinderella?"
Oh my gosh, I never knew they ever broke character. That's crazy. Yeah. I love that. Fun fact that I just learned about you, Maegen.
Yes. Yeah. So we treat a lot of princesses. And
I mean, I can only imagine the clout that was for your daughter too. She was probably oh my gosh.
It was funny because it happened a bunch of times. And I finally had to say, like, at some point when she was a little older, mommy treats her for her wrinkles.
Love that.
Oh, yes.
And then Shawna
don't have wrinkles. Oh, sorry.
Well, I feel like, it's funny, as I always jokingly tell them, I'm like, man, Disney should be paying for this because they want you to stay young looking.
If you're supposed to look like a cartoon character, yes, Disney should totally
pay for that. There should be a stipend for Botox for princesses. I advocate.
And Shawna, you're on the other side of the country. You've got 5 locations now, correct? And
you're
kind of
West Side. Sorry, I have to do that when I represent the West Side.
I love it.
Tell us I know Shawna and I were just talking about how crazy the trade show and meeting circuit is right now. Are you home for a while, Shawna, or about to jump on a plane again?
I've been home, ironically, for like 2 full weeks, and it's been amazing. Oh. And yes, so I am home, and it feels so great, and it feels nice to kind of get things done, because when you're traveling all the time, it's hard to catch up. So yes, I am home.
All right. Well, I am so grateful to have both of you on. One of the reasons we have both of you on is that you are your friends and your colleagues in the industry, but you represent kind of a dichotomy, not just separated by your coasts. But Shawna, you are a nurse practitioner. Maegen is a PA. You're obviously on different sides of the country. And Maegen, you're in the midst potentially of opening other locations. Shawna has done it. Shawna, are you done growing at this point, do you think? Or
today? Yes. But I am never a person of never know. So, life is always unexpected, and that's what makes it fun and challenging. And so I never say no. But as of today and yesterday, I can confidently say the answer is no.
And then Maegen, where are you at with your growth?
Yeah, so we have the Windermere location, and we are ramping up to open our Winter Park location at the end of summer. And so we're super excited. We were going to take 2 projects on at once this year, but we decided to just do 1 project this year instead. Just because, going from 1 location to 2 location, I think is probably the biggest next step. And then once we get that right, we can do multiple locations in a year. I just think, taking on 2 locations in 1 year with scaling to the second location just has to be done with extra care. But we're ready to gear up to do a lot more locations once we get this, going and see how this, happens for us.
Now, it seems like, and Shawna, I love your opinion on it. It just logically, obviously, I've never opened 1, much less 2 med spas, but what you're saying seems would be true. But Shawna, what do you think? Is the second location like the hardest?
I think it is. And Maegen, I'm relieved for you to hear that, because when I heard what you were doing, I was like, I was like, okay. I'm like,
I heard you did that.
If anyone can do it, you can do it.
Thank
We
you.
thought about that as well, because, when you're at capacity and you're just really desperate for space and, expansion organically, just because you can't accommodate all of your patients. You kind of go into desperate times, desperate measures. But we did 1 about every year and a half, and that was really not planned either. It's like we opened 1 up, it was optimized, and then it's like, okay, now where do we go? Where are patients coming from? And that's kind of how we went from location to location. But yeah, you learn something along the way every single time. And then after the first, you do kind of have a blueprint of a business plan on, not like necessarily Starbucks, because again, each location is different, each team is different, each patient demographic is different. And so, but you have kind of like, okay, we did this, it worked, and we did this and it didn't work. Let's do this next time. But one of the things that we were met when we expanded to our 5th location was a really challenging HOA, which was never predicted. And we just got a sign on the door, not even a sign on the building, and it's been almost 3 years. And it's just been really difficult. And so those types of challenges you can't predict. Also, we had fires when we were opening up in California on our last location as well. So just the fire permit took months longer than expected. So, when you run into those kind of roadblocks, those are unpredictable, endeavors, but it kind of forces you to kind of plan ahead for next time.
That makes sense.
And absolutely, one of the things that I think that I'm so excited for is that you both have a lot of experience and success. Thankfully, right? You survived the pandemic. It's not like you're newbies. You guys have been around for a few years or so, right? I'm not going to say how many, just out of respect and honor for you and me both.
Oh no, I'm like fully open about my age and how long I've been in. And it's funny because, just kind of on a side note, I'm so much more confident in saying my age these days, because I'm proud to be almost 49, and have, I would say, maybe the drive and obviously the aesthetic, because of all of the work that I've done to myself and in the investment that I've made in myself. But it really does, show tried and true of what is possible for your patients, because so many people don't believe. I'm sure it's the same with you guys, of what your actual age is. So as I get older, I'm dressing a little skimpier, because I'm like, hey, what's up? And it's like, I'm more confident in saying my age, because it's like, yeah, let's do this. Age is just a number, let's live our best life.
So true.
Yeah, I love that. Well, as you have been in this industry and done amazing things, one of the things that we're seeing right now, and we probably will, and we have been, and we will for the next 5 to 10 years, is a lot of new medical spas kind of breaking through the industry right now. And I would love both of your thoughts. And this is a big question, but we'll kind of dig into that. Is what makes a med spa like the next level? What takes it to the next level? How do you go from your average med spa on the corner to something special? Does
Shawna,
anybody have any ideas right off the bat?
I was thinking about this, and what's great now is that people have access to advisors, and there are so many resources out there than when Maegen and I started. I think Maegen and I figured out a lot of things through blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of things through blood, sweat, and tears. But now you have advisors who basically can lay out the blueprint for you. You have AI, you have online resources that are free. You have so many things that you could pay for as well to leverage that information. But I kind of thought of it in like 4 buckets, basically, with regards to best practices. So one is to have a strategic plan. Number 2 is to have exceptional customer service and outcomes. Number 3 is to have effective marketing. A lot of people market and a lot of people spend a lot of time and money on marketing, but it's not effective. And then finally, the 4th is basically effective and efficient operations that with us, well-defined SOPs and education for your team, all the way from, the injectors to basically everyone who has a touch point with a patient, whether that's even indirectly, such as social media. So those are kind of the 4 kind of pillars that I think of when it comes to best practices. And then through those 4 funnels are a lot of actionables, but those are kind of high level. Kind of think about when I think about best practices on what takes your med spa to the next level.
Yeah, those are, amazing points. And I agree. Those, you can go in funnels of each one of those and speak to high level individually, those topics. I could tell you what I think doesn't work for some, like when we watch these med spas popping up on all the corners, is people who get into this industry open up a med spa without experience. And so someone who may just have taken a weekend course and said, I'm going to go open a med spa. They're not really understanding the dynamics of running a med spa, but also they're trying to learn how to be an injector at the same time. So someone with experience, I think, is really important. Not just maybe some of these, we see some of these like chain med spas coming in, and trying to get into this industry. And a lot of them, I think the challenge they're going to face is the protocols that they're going to have in the back and keeping consistency with consistent work. You're 100% right with the marketing. If you have very like cookie cutter copy and paste marketing, it's not effective. Patients don't engage. And you're really then just fighting at the bottom price point too. So, when you have discounts upon deals, immediately out of the gate, you're training your patients. Kind of like Bed Bath & Beyond, and we all know what happened with Bed Bath & Beyond. I mean, I wouldn't shop there without a 20% off coupon off my entire purchase. So I feel like we shoot ourselves in the foot quickly with some of these med spas that come in and try to just get busy quick. And so I agree, like you have to have the blood, sweat, and tears. I always say you have to build your house out of brick and not straw. And that during the COVID pandemic, we saw that, more than ever to be vital. To have had the nuts and bolts and the operations and the systems down. And so what was interesting to me was during COVID, we did see a boom in our industry, a pretty pretty big boom. And then now we're kind of like normalizing back to what we were almost pre-COVID, but a little bit better in terms of the market as a whole. But we're seeing a lot of these med spas now struggle that started during COVID because they don't understand that, during COVID, they got a little burst, but now they have to go back to grassroots marketing. They have to go back to actually building their business. It's like the same with the housing industry with realtors. So, during that peak, now, their actual numbers are going down, and I think they're panicking a little, and we see a lot of fire sale type stuff. And so I think that's going to only hurt them, and they're going to be a race to the bottom. So yeah, a new med spa coming in this space has to do it very smart, strategic, and have a good brand.
Yes.
So I'm curious, how exactly do you do that? It's tricky. I know we always say, especially at AmSpa, because a lot of times we have, legal and compliance is a big part of what we do, and it's expensive and it's time consuming. And a lot of people, see their competitors not following the rules and not doing what they need to do. And it's frustrating for them. And we always say, yes, but it's so much harder to stop and fix, the mistakes. So if you find yourself in that situation where you have kind of built your house out of straw, which I love that analogy, how do you find the time and ability to hit the brakes and fix it so you're stronger for the next, quarter to 5 years? How do you do that?
Well, that's a great question. It's funny, taking time to do the clinical training it feels like a burden task for a lot of us that are running these, really taking in someone and training them the style that we do it feels, like a heavy task because there's so much to do and so much to train and so much. And I tell them this all the time because we're currently doing that, is the time that I'm investing right now is time back later, to where if things run efficiently and smooth and patients are happy with their happy outcomes, then it comes back tenfold. So really you have to have the person that is knowledgeable enough to pour into your people and not just send them to courses that don't identify with your brand, or because they come back and they have all these new ideas, all these new things. And, they have to first skin that. I hate this analogy, but they have to first skin this cat. There's other cats to skin, but it's like, focus on this first.
There are other cats to skin. That's the title of this
But they
podcast.
start to go off into these lands of like, well, we need this and we need that. And you're like, wait a minute, we have this. Get really good at this, and then we'll move on to that. And so I think not getting ahead of yourself when you introduce things, introduce them well with proper training, and really just start off on the right foot. And if you have problems, like you said, identify them and really update the team on like, okay, like when things happen, this is actually a growth opportunity. I always tell people, I'm like, as long as we learn something from it, I'm okay. We just all have to, let's just learn something from it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's those things are non-negotiable. It's the same thing as a leader. We have to take time out of the day to actually execute, because otherwise we'll just get buried in tasks and, all of the things. And so it's non-negotiable time, really. If you built your house made out of straw and you need to go to bricks, it's non-negotiable. You have to set time aside because, like Maegen said, 10 times fold on the return. And I love there's an Instagram thing going around. It's like, what's your best investment, or what's the most thing you spent the money on? And it's basically like me. And it's with like all of the training and how much it costs and how much time you've spent on getting your advanced degree or going to the cadaver class, going to an AmSpa boot camp, all of those things. These things are essential foundational implementations that you need to do and make time for in order to get to that brick house.
100%.
Well, and I think there is it's interesting, Maegen, because you both said something that seemed like it's not easy, but it was kind of a tick off, right? Send your team to training or make sure your marketing is working for you. Those are two things that you can very much set and forget, and then you end up paying on the other side of it, right? Like if you send people to training and you don't give them goals and you don't give them expectations and you don't work with them on that, then they come back and all you got was like a day out of the office, correct?
Right. And that's the thing too, is identifying which training actually would benefit for the need of what they need to learn, and not sending them to something that is completely off brand. So that we do a lot of our injections with cannula, sending them to a needle injection course would be counterproductive. And so a cadaver course is always a good idea, of course, with Dr. Surik. And that course is amazing. All of our injectors go through that course. So there are staples courses that I feel like everybody should go through, but then there's these one-off courses that you have to be careful, sending the team to, that is essentially not on brand with what you're doing.
I think one of my biggest challenges now, since I'm not primarily seeing scheduled patients anymore, is allowing our providers to shadow me. And Maegen, you're still injecting, so that's not an issue for you, but we basically have worked so long in this industry and know ideally what a good patient encounter looks like. And so I try to model that. I tried to model that when our newer injectors or people new to our team would shadow me, because it's hard to teach that. And what I'm struggling with now is I'm telling all of our providers and our team like best practices. It's like, I didn't get to where I was by just doing. I did it by making it an exceptionally amazing experience and made it intentional for the patient, so they would want to come back to you, even if you maybe cause them to have a Spock eyebrow or you didn't give them like the best outcome. It's like, oopsie daisy, like let's fix this. But now I know how to treat you better the next time because of your anatomy, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's what's hard for me to like really push currently with our team is like, no, I'm not just telling you this to tell you. Like I lived and breathed this, and this is what takes great to greater. And so it's harder for me to give that to the team on like a firsthand basis without them seeing it for themselves.
Well,
That's-
and I think, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Megan.
oh no, that's a really good point. I'm going down to 2 to 3 days a week, and I can completely understand like the shadow days that you mentioned and how challenging that is, especially since you're not seeing scheduled patients now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's tricky.
So when I jump back into seeing patients because I have to cover for somebody, if they're called sick or something like that, I try to do my best to like rise even above. And it's like, I walk my patients out, I greet them by name, I go and get their skincare products for them. I give them resources. I tell them, I'm so excited I was able to see you today. Thank you so much for coming in. I mean, all of the things that we know that we all preach, right? But it's really that modeling that really, I think, is effective for taking the education to your team to next level.
So true.
Well, I think that's an interesting thing that you're talking about, though, because I feel like it's a challenge, right? To spark the passion that you innately feel for your business and what you've done and your inner drive, potentially sparking that into your larger team. And then the secondary complication is how do you spark that into your home team and then your additional locations, right? Do you have any, like, I can only imagine, and I see it, you know, in my own team where I'm like, oh, I care so much about this. How do I make sure that they care about it too? And I'm not sure if there's a way necessarily that you can do that short of hiring someone who feels that naturally anyway. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that question to Shawna, like how do you prep for your next locations? Because currently what we're doing is we just hired ahead, a few months ahead, have them with us now. Like they're currently all with us, most of them, especially the injectors. And so we're just putting in the groundwork now to then have them move to that location. So how did you do that, Shawna?
Yeah, well, a lot of our planning and scaling, we used and leveraged the current staff. So we kind of, I don't know how we did it, to be honest with you, because it would start, really low overhead with like one, maybe two injectors. And sometimes they would start splitting their time before they fully evolved into that location full time, just so you didn't have, two FTEs, just for example, being at a 50% utilization and capacity rate. So we kind of teetered them over there part-time, but to offer, full service basically. But the change that we did in hiring is basically, this is kind of against the grain of what I initially started but hired people with no experience. And, if you have 2 months to embed the culture, the drive, the talent, and all of those things, and you hired amazing people who smile, who want to be in this industry more than anything, who are so passionate about aesthetics and making people feel beautiful, that's your start of success. So if you have time, to invest in them and really model and train, you can start with fresh people as you have, but otherwise, taking your current people as, like an anchor injector out there who already is living and breathing your culture, living and breathing your strategy with regards to injection technique. So someone new's coming in and they're telling them something different, I like having an anchor at a location as well.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah. One thing you mentioned, Cathy, was how do you get them excited, like energy wise? And I do think hiring the right like energy. And, I was really kind of thinking through this actually pretty recently, like what does this all start from? Like how do we all go to the office and we're all excited? And I really think it starts from the top. I really think it all starts with the leader and the energy of the leader and coming in and that just pouring that energy into them. And I think it really starts at the top and trickles down.
Yeah, and the educational aspect too with your team, specifically the injectors, because as we know, 50 to 60%, or say it's going down now, but 50 to 40% of just say Botox patients don't come back because they assume that they have had maybe a bad outcome or maybe just didn't have a great experience. But regardless, the number is going down. It used to be about 50%, but now I think it's trending more to 40%, which is good. But a lot of the things has to do with educating your providers, because if people come back unhappy, you have to go back to their baseline pictures and basically prove to them like, oh my gosh, your outcome is so good. Or no, your Botox, you still have a treatment effect if they come back in 3 to 4 months and say it all went away in 2 weeks or 2 months or something like that. That's happened to some of my friends and family who go and get, seen other places because they live in different areas. And I'm like, no, girl, your Botox looks fabulous. What are you talking about? But they're like, I'm not going back to that provider because my Botox didn't last or it didn't work as well. And it's like, no, actually looks amazing. And so educating your team and making sure that you go through the systematic approach, like I was talking about, like efficient operations. These are how these certain situations need to be handled. So your patient does feel like they got a good outcome and they will return.
And to add to a successful med spa, I think what in this conversation is the top 2 things I think that have helped us is getting reviews and good quality before and afters.
So true.
So those are the top things that I try to, focus on a daily basis, is like, how can we deliver that experience that's going to be, equal a good 5-star review, and then the before and afters. I really push the team, like make sure the lighting is good, make sure the position's good, make sure, because that's key too. These people who are looking for a place, the before and after speak volumes.
Yeah.
So the before and afters, I'm sorry, just to clarify, the before and afters are used they're helpful to you for both marketing and retention. Is that correct?
Yes, both marketing, retention, referrals, patient questions, coming in that are existing patients that are like, what did you do for her? I want that. And we do a lot of signature services. And I think that's going to help us with scalability too, is, if you come in and you get an MK pout, you're going to get an MK pout from me or anyone else. We're the Blue Man Group. You come in and get sculpture injection, we're going to do it the same way. And so I think one thing I've seen in some scaling med spas that are sometimes mainly run by corporate is they don't have a good system for injection pattern and style. And so I find that patients struggle with, I have to just see this. We all have patients that are just have to see this one person, but the goal is for everyone to trust the providers as a whole.
Okay, very good. That's tricky. That's something that I hear I love what you're saying, Maegen. And I think that's like the ultimate goal, isn't it? So that you're not only training the same, but you're telling the patient that you've been trained the same by branding the MK pout. Not only are you doing it internally, but you're telling the patient right off the bat, like, this is what we do, which is kind of takes that away, that I can only go to this one person kind of thing away from their understanding too, which I think is something we don't necessarily do as well as we can in this market, in this industry, is how does the patient feel? Like, why are they behaving the way they're behaving? Is it because of this, that, and the other thing? So I really like what you're saying there. That's a really interesting way to kind of very easily make the patient feel confident that they're going to be getting quality.
Yeah, consistent outcomes, consistent where I can, I know what they're doing in the room. I know how they're doing it. I just, we've been in this industry long enough. We know that this works, this doesn't, and also letting kind of just free range is not ideal. I find that in my situation, I like to sleep really good at night, I always say, and I like to make sure we have great patient outcomes, great safety, and, just consistency.
All right, great. I wanted to go back to a comment you made at the very beginning, Shawna, about making sure that your marketing is doing what you want it to do. And I think that's really interesting to me, because I feel like there's a lot of marketing kind of trends, and you have to do this and you have to do that. How are you tracking what works for you, kind of from a leadership level? And then how does that trickle down in your decisions?
Well, data with marketing is not my wheelhouse, nor my specialty, nor something that I want to spend time with. So we hire an agency, and they basically do all of our data tracking. And luckily with Zenoti, they've made such great strides in their EMR to be able to do tracking on the back end where all of our leads can be tracked now to an actual conversion, meaning dollar amount as well, and what services they're doing, and all of those things. And so that data tracking is great. But I hire out a lot of the data management and all the A/B testing that we do for our social media and Google ads, because that's not my wheelhouse. And again, not something that's best use of my time. I like to receive the data and then, pivot from there. So I think it's important for you to identify what specialty is, best use for your practice and what's the best ROI for your time. And I've been talking about, I know we're talking about marketing, but I'm just going to go off on a side tangent, with regards to time management, because I think that's where we all struggle as business owners and people just in general. And I just did this intake for an executive assistant or an admin assistant, and how much time and money they could save you, and how much time you're spending on like small tasks basically. And wow, I've been talking about it now for 12 plus years and I just never have had one. But anyway, side tangent. Going back to marketing, I think it's an ever evolving analysis. And the consumer, I love what you said, Cathy, because you said we're trying to figure out what the patient is perceiving in our messaging, what the patient is perceiving in our before and after, because as we know, there are horrific comments made on social media on some before and afters. And it's like, do these people or bots know? I know the bot doesn't care, but do these people know that this face actually is tied to an actual human being with feelings? I mean, it's ridiculous. But some may perceive it as a beautiful outcome. Some may think it's absolutely terrible and never completely unfollow you for it. So I think you always have to try and understand what the consumer wants. And as we know, we're finding more and more data out there, and it's being shared, which is great, with regards to what the different demographics are looking for. And people just want information, basically. And they want to be confident in the provider that they're choosing. Evidence out there shows that people will pay for expertise. People will pay for a brand and a luxury brand that will deliver an amazing experience and outcome. People will pay that. So like Maegen talked about, the bottom feeders, those who are price dropping and giving away the farm, that business model is not sustainable. The people with the highest growth usually are the ones who have actually the highest prices, but can deliver and execute behind that.
I love that.
That's awesome. And I think you're right. I think the trick is I love that you outsource, you can't be all things to all people. You can't be an expert in everything. Outsourcing I think it's critical. Whether either you're outsourcing or you're hiring for the things that you don't do well in order to have a successful med spa. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to go back to your comment, your kind of sidebar on efficiency and hiring your executive assistant. I was just at this Women in Retail Leadership Conference this past week, which was very interesting. Needless to say, it's a whole different kind of ballgame, but there was a speaker there. Her name was Emma McElroy. I don't know if you have ever heard of her. She's the founder of Wild Fang, which is a super cool fashion line that I've never heard of, obviously. But maybe you guys have. She's super bright, amazing entrepreneur. But one of the things that she said, and this kind of leads me to what you were talking about, Shawna, in for the past 12 years, you wanted to get an executive assistant and it would save me so much time, blah, blah, blah. And then what you said, Maegen, when you said leadership, the vibe, the passion you're sparking comes from the top down. If you truly don't allow yourself that time and get that time back, Shawna, then you have less to give, right? From a leadership perspective, from that energy, because you're using all your energy on the small tasks. And it hit me funny because during this conference, she did this whole thing on the different types of wellness. And she was like, but I know you're all thinking you don't have time for any of this right now. She goes, what if I told you it's not optional? What if I told you that as a leader, it's your responsibility to stay healthy, take care of yourself, breathe, find efficiencies so that then you can actually contribute to your business in that palpable way, which to us as leaders that do a lot of things, it feels like the lot of things is the palpable, but it's not. When you get to a certain point, it's that energy. So anyway, I had to share that with you because I was like, that is so like right on.
Yeah, it should be, the non-negotiable. That's why I drink water out of a wine glass during the day, because I pretend like I'm day drinking.
I think the other thing is to make the high level decisions and quickly, solution based.
Oh yeah.
I think that's really a big part of what we do is that, you have to, that's hilarious. I love that. I do the same thing because I stopped drinking and I now do that just on a daily basis. I drink everything out of a wine glass just to feel better. But I might be drinking
calmer,
wine.
instantly calmer.
Yes, it's a good trick. That's funny you do that too. So I love that, and it's interesting, Cathy, as you were saying these things, I'm sitting here reflecting back on you and what you've done and what you've built and, the marketing behind AmSpa and the brains behind the operations and just like watching you grow as well. And as you were saying that, I was just sitting here listening, like you've done some, we should be interviewing you as well.
Yes. I want to interview Cathy. Let's spin the table.
No.
Great idea.
You're very sweet. I have an amazing team, literally the best team in the world, but it is exactly that. Like marketing is a perfect example. Like it's not my forte. I get it. I understand it. I kind of get where we need to be, but our marketing team is incredible. Events, same. So you've got to kind of know what you can do and what you can't do or what other people can do better. I was going to ask now, as someone who's kind of listening to this and trying to figure out how do I get from okay to super successful? What are the KPIs? Like if you could name your top 3 KPIs, whether it be, what'd you say?
I said, Shawna, you take this one.
Oh my gosh, there are so many KPIs that are so important. But I think really when you're talking about the health of your business, patient retention, new patients, new patient percentage to overall patient seen, and your average invoice. Obviously sales and all that stuff, is self-explanatory. You want to have trajectory of growth. But when you're looking at taking skill sets and elevating them, that's where we have average invoice, with regards to our providers on what that looks like. Average retail sale, percentage of retail sales to total sales is also a benchmark that we follow closely. But when you're talking about the health of the business outside of just sales and revenue, collections, I'm looking at new patients and retention. Those 2 things I think are really, really important.
And for me, it's cost of the margins. My margins cost of good.
Right. Yeah.
Probably one of the ones.
You got to make some money, right, to pay for all the things.
Yes.
And you're tracking these all by software, right? There's no way. Is there a way that you could do this on paper and really know?
Oh my gosh, Cathy, you just gave me goosebumps. You said paper? What is that? Oh my gosh. No, nothing on paper. That is not efficient. That is against the grain of everything we should be against.
See, I feel like that's where the investment comes from though, right? Like it is when you're starting out and you're counting every single penny. It's like, you can't actively track this. You can't track your success if you don't have the tool you need to do it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, you have to have all the data. Absolutely. And it has to be achievable and retrievable like quickly.
Yeah. So how do you review your data, Shawna? I'm like wondering, do you carve out a day to do it? Do you carve out an hour? Do you do it in the evening with a glass of not wine, but sparkling water?
A glass of wine at the end of the day. Yeah, a glass of wine at the end of the day. No, every single day Zenoti spits out, it's called a daily summary report. And with that, I do look at that for every single location. It's basically at a glance, the performance of that location. So outside of collections, it even gives you open invoices. It gives you all of the percentages of KPIs that I just talked about. It says who basically is the leader with the highest sales that day. It gives a breakdown of all of the providers' revenue generated based on gift card packages, memberships, sales, retail. It's a quick glance for each location. Maybe it takes me, 45 seconds to skim through. But just by doing that on the daily, it gives me a high level idea of what that site, how it's operating and how the providers are operating. So that's like on the daily, but again, not a huge time commitment. And then every month we basically look at all of our KPIs to date, month to date, year to date. We look at all of our marketing initiatives, what the ROI was. We look at also at turns, inventory turns every single month, and put things on the dock that aren't turning for potentially getting rid of. We look at new products. I mean, a lot of analysis is done at the end of every month with the team. So we have a director of retail sales and education. We have a marketing coordinator, and then we have a practice manager at all of our sites. And so we're all in on this conversation together and then setting the plan forward, ideally for the rest of the year, if we can get that far. But a lot of things that we learn, we try to pivot right away with regards to marketing and outreach and, specials and promotions on what worked, what didn't, and things like that.
I love hearing you talk about it because you absolutely have your ducks in a row. And I mean, I admire your process and the way that you've delegated down and you have people kind of owning certain things. Do you feel like you're at a point that the process is solid, it's working for you, and this is how it should be? Or is there anything in there that you're like, I would like to do this, or this might help me do better?
One of my biggest pitfalls is that I'm never satisfied. So I think we have a good system in place. It's been sustainable, but I think we can always do better. And so I'm always looking for areas on where we can improve in, shaving off bottom line expenditures, improving cost of goods, all of those things. So yeah, I'm always.
Well, it's hard when the bullseye's always moving too with expenditures on literally every level.
Oh yeah, that's true. Very true.
That's probably been worse in the last 2 years, even with, when you're looking at operating and payroll and things like that. It is 100% a moving target. It's hard to project. It really is.
In California, effective April 1st, all fast food workers, I'm not sure how that's defined, but they got a minimum wage increase to $20 an hour. And, it's those types of things are very impactful to, compensation.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think a lot of, as the competition increases, which I think is good, competition is good. It makes us be a little bit more acute in our decision making and our strategy. But it also, it impacts a lot of things such as comp and the way that we are pricing and the way that we are operating and all of those types of things. So yeah, we have to constantly be on your toes.
Yes, and know your laws on both HR and legal and scope of practice, because those are always changing too. So as we come up on time, I'm very curious, and I would love to know, what is your piece or pieces of advice? I know, Shawna, you gave us our 4 kind of things we need to look at, but if you're either in a situation where you're starting out or you're in a situation, and I think there are a lot of people right now, Maegen, that are kind of in that situation where you kind of were off and running for whatever reason, whether it be the pandemic or you just were in a place that didn't have any competition and now you do, and you realize maybe my foundation isn't as strong as it needs to be. What's your advice for folks that want to strengthen that and figure out how to get to the next level?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of those people as well, because that has got to be a little bit of a scary month-to-month situation. Because, when you're first starting out the business in med spa world pre-COVID, it's a slow and steady climb, like a natural organic growth. And I was used to it just knowing that was the beginning of the business. But if you started at a pinnacle and then you're coming down, I mean, that's scary. And I'm seeing a lot of med spas panicking. And so I think if you have a good brand, if you have good injectors and good business practices, hang tight. You have to still go through the initial stages of building a business. And you have to still be hungry. And like Shawna said, and I think it is a really big secret sauce, is you have to stay on your toes and always continually strive to be better, to do better. And it's interesting. I'm glad you said that, that you're never satisfied, because I'm like, is it just me? Or
We're sick humans, Maegen.
Oh
Absolutely.
man.
sick and
Okay,
green.
good. I love it. Because, then you think, and outside of the box thinkers. And I think, this is not a cookie cutter business if you want to stand out. And so I think those people who are in those positions right now should think about how you would have, this was 0-0. So I played soccer my whole life. When you think you're winning is when you lose. And so we always in soccer, when we were up 2 or 3 points, we would always say to each other, everyone, you would hear across the field, it's 0-0. And that's how you have to go into this thinking every day. It's still 0-0. And you can be beaten in 2 seconds if you are too comfortable, or you're just not paying, you don't have your finger on the pulse of what's happening. So yeah, no, I think sit tight, focus inward versus outward. Marketing, get your strategies correct, make sure your brand is on point. So that way you have to go you have to go slow to go fast is kind of the analogy I always do. So slow down to be able to go fast. But those were some good months and maybe even some good years for people, but it's not that your business is necessarily doing bad. It's just that we're in a different time.
Yeah, so well said. No industry is sustainable with that growth that we had. It's just not. So, oh my gosh, I'm going to think now 0-0 all day, every day. That's such a good set. I love that. I think that people need to identify what they're good at and what they're passionate about, because that's going to be the best return on your time within the practice. Everything out, if you make a list of all of the things that need to be done, and it's a lot. We talked about 4 high-level categories and then lots of actionables underneath. All of those actionables, you should be like, nope, 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 nope. Yep, yep, yep. And all of the nopes you need to delegate out, and you need to pay people. You need to pay people to do those things well. And really nurture what is the best time spent for you. And another thing is, I think so many people strive for perfection. I am a complete type A. I thought that I was going to be like this crazy helicopter parent, and I just ended up completely reverting not into like this laissez-faire parent, but it's just like, whatever works, whatever makes you happy. Like sometimes I tell my team 80% is good enough. And that drives them crazy, because I have a lot of people like me with the mindset like, no, it has to be perfect. But that is your biggest blocker of your own action ahead. And it really stops you from executing at that level. So you need to say, nope, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be 80%. And I'm okay with that. Just know, like, should we try to hit 100%? Yeah. But if it's going to take you 10 times longer and 80% will get the job done, then let's get the job done. And I think we are our own worst enemies. And so when we get a negative review, we get someone who's pissed off at us because of, you did this wrong or that wrong. Like, take ownership, listen, take ownership, and learn how to do things better in the future, and be humble about it, because our brain and our body will say defense mechanism. Nope, I didn't do this, or I did that because of all of these other reasons. But be humble and just listen and learn, because otherwise you will just continue to like fail. So that's my biggest advice. And what I see a lot of people do is just their own worst enemy in driving for perfection and not taking constructive feedback.
Oh gosh, that's so true. That's such a good point. And staying in your lane, like with niches and stuff too. I think that a lot of people try to do a lot of random things in this med spa space. And so being really good at what you're really good at and focus on that, and then expand as you go along. But starting off with, a niche.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's like, do you. Like there's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of distraction, and it can't, in my experience, it's not worth your time to be paying attention to the distraction, because you're just taking away from your ability to do better, because you're too worried about that.
And we didn't even
is
touch
like
on. Oh, go ahead. What?
Oh, I was just going to say, comparing yourself to a competitor or another person is literally like such a bad, unhealthy mindset. Like, just like you said, do you focus on you?
A horse with blinders. That's what I always say. A horse with blinders. Exactly. I don't see it. I don't care. And I don't care. I'm focused on.
Even just the negative energy that it brings. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even if it just puts you in that position where not positively moving forward. You're just kind of allowing the negativity and that feeling of, all those feelings that come into your own personal negativity to be the thing you put energy towards. And it's not worth it.
And there's one thing we really didn't touch on too much that I find to be successful is a really good, successful membership model.
Tell me, let's talk about it.
So there's a lot of different variety of memberships out there. And, for me, a loyalty program has worked really well for us. So basically having a patient that wants to come to our practice, giving them an exclusive, I hate the word discount. So exclusive rates or best pricing. And so for us, we're able to retain and have consistent recurring cash flow every month that's consistent and reliable. And so we can scale. But for us, we tried different memberships that didn't work. And this, banking model for us was really the best.
So this is like a beauty bank concept,
Yeah.
right?
So our
Can
beauty
you
bank,
do you mind going into it just a little bit?
Yeah,
'Cause
no,
I've heard
I don't
this
mind.
concept, and it's
So
you're not the Go ahead.
crazy. It's funny, my marketing director and we just talk about this all the time. She's like, we need to make sure, because we're the OG of the beauty bank. We're potentially the original. And so we're like all these copiers, but copying is like the greatest form of flattery, right? So we've had it for years and years and years now.
You should just trademark it.
I know we're trying. We're trying really hard. Because now a lot of people, so I'm like, why don't we just add Windermere, a beauty bank then? And she's like, but no, then then we're not letting people know we were the original. I'm like, it's okay. It's not a big deal. But so basically when someone comes in, they, and they're a new patient or they're existing patient, and we have paper for them and we show them member rate, non-member rate, and $149, no setup fee, 3-month commitment only, and everything that they put into it, they get out of it. And so every month they just pay $149, and they, it's fee for service. So if they have $0 in their bank, they just have to pay for whatever service, but at the member rate. And, we're able to scale this membership. We have, 900 plus members paying $49 a month, which is at one location. And so we're hoping 2 location, we can go to another 900 or more. So goal is 2,000 members between the 2 locations. And, what that does is then they're guaranteeing their dollars with you too. They're not going to go to some Botox special because why would they do that? They have the best rate at the place that they already trust. And it's also a way for them to hide it from their spouse. I'm just spending $149 on myself a month. So some people will save up, come in, they have $1,000 in their bank. You'd be surprised at how fast $150 adds up. I'm always shocked when I look at 3 months later. I'm like, how do they have $450 or whatever, ends up being after 3 months? I'm like, how does this add up this fast? And it does. It just really adds up. So the patient loves that they come in. They feel like they're actually, when they come in and they either have $100 to pay or they, whatever it is, difference. They, it's also, you just, I don't know. It's just for us, it's a loyalty. It's consistent return for them to come back.
Well, and I would imagine it's also reliable, right? You can kind of start figuring out what your year is actually going to look like. And
yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. So that's one big thing. I will say because I did different models. I did the layaway model when HintMD was around. I did a give your patients facial model. And then you end up like the Massage Envy and you got 50 facials and the patient's like, what can I trade this in for? And you're like, no, they're not tradable. And you also can't come for 3 days straight and get facial for 24 hours. So
I would have tried that.
Yeah, right. I mean, it sounds amazing. So what I found was for us as well, I mean, the biggest challenge I will say with this membership model is card either decline sufficient funds and having someone tracking the back end. So every 1st and 15th, we tie them to these days. So that way we can run reports. And then we use Slack. And every day I get a morning update of 5 left, 4 left. But about every cycle, we have 30 plus cards that we have to chase. So that's really, truly, in all honesty, that's probably the biggest headache, but it's worth the headache.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for going through that. Shawna, do you guys have a membership program that you like, or?
We don't have a membership program yet, but I've been wanting to do it for a long time. And like Maegen said, there's a million ways to skin a cat. And I've looked at literally so many different membership programs. Each one has pros and cons. And, we were acquired last year. And so I didn't want to implement something. We were just about to implement something, and I didn't want to do that after new ownership came in. But they are all for doing a membership, but I think they're going to do it, organizational wide. And so we've just kind of been waiting. But the good thing is that we've all been collaborating. Those who do have memberships don't have memberships on what this best one will look like for us. And so I am excited about that. But we do have a loyalty program. So through Zenoti, it's easy to implement. So patients get points equivalent to like Ally and Aspire rewards. 100 points equals $10. And by rebooking in office that same day, they get 100 points. So they get $10 upon their return. New patients get 250 points off the bat after they close their first invoice. So they have $25 to return as a new patient that they combine with their Ally and Aspire and Lasting Beauty rewards. And then we can give points also to reward them for good behavior, for attending events, for engaging in promotions, coupling that with, other things that we do by rewarding them for good behaviors and fun behaviors, I like to say.
Oh, I love I love that.
Yeah. So it's also for referrals and things like that.
But the
points.
rebooking is key. That's genius to do that.
It is so our rebooking rate went up to almost 70% instantly, with just, not always consistently 70%, but on the high end. Because when you're asked that question, we'd love to see you back in 4 months. What day of the week works best for you? The week of May 12th. Oh, I'm going to go check my calendar. I'll book online. Okay, well, just so you know, if you book today, you get 100 points, which is equivalent to, $10, 10 DA, we call DA Life dollars. DA Life dollars that you can combine. And then like literally it's like a 90% of the people, oh, okay, well, let me look at my calendar. And so they convert that day. It's really nice.
That's amazing, because then you're also not tying up phones if they want to call and rebook on the phone as well. That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah, the $10 is worth its weight in value for sure.
And they have to stay consistent with that appointment that they book, or they can move that.
Yeah.
appointment.
So Zenoti knows if they basically cancel, then they get that rebooking $10 and 100 points away.
Okay, that's smart. That's awesome. Okay.
I feel like I could just listen to you guys like all day.
Yeah, I love it.
You're so
Like a
right.
masterminds group.
I know, like, let's just,
Yeah.
but I know you have other things to do. I appreciate your time so much. If people are not already following you on Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever you would like, can you let us know where people can find you?
Yeah, for us on Instagram, it's the Princess Injector. And then you can also do Orlando Med Spa on Instagram.
So we are Instagram destination_aesthetics. I am Botox.girl, and on LinkedIn as Shawna Chrisman.
All right. Well, thank you again so much, ladies. This was awesome. And I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great day.
You too.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you so much.
Fun.
Good to see you guys.
All right.
Thank you for watching the Medical Spa Insider podcast. Please make sure to subscribe to our channel for future videos and podcasts. For more information about the American Med Spa Association, please check our description below.